saying that Ryan has done a great job of putting in motion a concept where, prior to which is press conferences during the football season, we can have other coaches come in and talk about their programs, let you all be exposed to some of the things and priorities that are on their mind. And I'd like to do the same thing here. I'd like to periodically just have a non-agenda, I know you have agendas, but from my perspective, a non-agenda opportunity for you to ask whatever's on your mind about any aspect of our athletics program. And that's what we'll do today. Rather than me sit up here and give you a kind of a state of the nation routine, I know you've got things on your mind that you'd like to ask or get explanations to or have a discussion about. So this is the opportunity for you to do that. And I'd be happy to answer any and all questions that might be on your mind. I know where I am and how I feel about where we are as a program collectively, where we are as a football program and other programs. Be happy to answer any of that specifically that you might want to ask.
Just raise your hand. We'll start with John right here.
John?
Nick?
Dave, you guys
Is that you, John, or is that someone from a higher college?
it's her. Dave, does it bother you? You put this in the past, or does it bother you at all that Tennessee's not in this SEC championship game because it came so close, mainly against Florida?
I've said this many times, John. I'm competitive to a fault. That's how I've always been. Nothing to be proud of, probably, but yeah, I'm very competitive. I was raised by a football coach. I've been around athletics all my life. A lot of my own values have been formed from those experiences. So sure, I'm no different than anyone else. I think everyone in our organization would like to have been in Atlanta. We'll be in Atlanta. This was a good step this year. Winning 8 games was a very positive step for our football program. And I go back to the Georgia game, John, when we were down 24-3, coming off some gut-wrenching, heartbreaking losses. And without question, that's when this team took a giant step forward. Because let's be honest, if the culture wasn't what it is, which has developed, that would not have occurred. And we haven't looked back since that comeback against Georgia. This is a different football team. This is a confident football team who's gained a lot of experience as the season has progressed.
Nick and Dustin and Edric.
Dave, have you had talks with Butch about a possible extension or raise, and is this the time to do that?
Butch and I communicate, as we do with all of our coaches, on a very regular basis. So we've already opened those conversations, and we'll continue to have those conversations.
Dave, there are obviously a lot of questions at the end of the year about the field and the shape of how that thing kind of got torn up a little bit. Just what did you sort of hear from field management about that whole situation? What sort of went wrong there? What's kind of in place to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of history on that, Dustin. There are several factors at play here, and we're not alone in that battle of taking care of practice and game fields. And I know y'all have minimal time, but I'm sure in the press box you watch other games. And there's been a lot of that in the region we live in. There's been a lot of torn up fields. Without mentioning any names, if you watch football late October on into November, you see a lot of that. So number one, that's not specific just to the University of Tennessee. You heard me say 3 or 4 years ago, really, in assessing strengths and weaknesses and setting priorities, that we had one of the smallest practice footprints in the country. And we are about the task of correcting that through our campaign that we're currently in. And that's one of the priorities in that facility campaign. On this site where Stokely stood for many years in Gibbs Hall, we have a 3-pronged project that is underway and will near completion in another year. The residence hall, of course, which was much needed and a great location. Chancellor was terrific about helping us secure that location. That's a real priority. The parking garage is desperately needed on this side of our campus. And then 3 full practice fields. When we get to mid-October, throughout the rest of the season, those of you who go out and practice know that our fields get pretty beat up. There's only so many places we can go. We'll have 3 full practice fields on that site. We'll go to the stadium probably less because we won't have to go to the stadium. Camps run now almost through the end of July, so we can't really address the fields until the end of July. So those are just all real factors. Having said that, we have an iconic stadium, and we're all on the same page. We want a first-class surface to play on. And we meet regularly with facilities, our facilities people who do a terrific job. We collaborate on a very regular basis. Rarely is there a meeting on this campus where expertise from the ag school isn't present to assist us in assessing what we can do. But our people who manage the fields, the people who have turf expertise, have been extraordinarily helpful and worked very hard to continue to try to improve that. I will say, the best of my memory is we're undefeated since we got past the middle of October, so it hasn't really impacted how we have performed. I know there are a couple people with field fetish in the room, and I understand that, but that's the explanation. We want a really good-looking field, and we'll continue to work to make certain that takes place.
Go Patrick, Paul, Heather, Jim.
Dave, you gave Butch a raise and an extension last year. I think not long after that, or in the course of the offseason, I think 4 or 5 other SEC coaches also got raises. I guess just how competitive and how much do you have to pay attention to the market when you're kind of evaluating whether or not to give a raise and an extension?
Well, Patrick, we're in a market-driven industry. Like it or not, fair or not, that's the reality. We are driven by the marketplace. And in this conference, certainly this conference has set the pace relative to what that marketplace looks like. So Butch is well aware of where I stand and well aware of how appreciative I am that he's our football coach. And he knows, we have ongoing conversations. He knows that we'll address that at the appropriate time and do what is right and fair as it relates to that.
Paul?
Dave, you kind of talked about how competitive you are. During this week, before you guys know your bowl destination, how much do you kind of take it upon yourself to try and push Tennessee out there to get to the most attractive game? And what are the ways that you can do that to kind of help the profile to different bowls and within the conference now in that tiered system?
Well, that's ongoing in nature, and as you expect and have just stated, obviously, there have been conversations for a little more than a week now, but they've accelerated, obviously, this week. Season is officially over. We know that we're 8-4. We know what the records are in the regular season and what's coming ahead this weekend. So those conversations with the conference and with the appropriate bowl officials have taken place and will continue to take place until we get to the call from the SEC on late Sunday afternoon or early Sunday evening.
Heather, Jim, and Steve.
Dave, you've been in this league a while now. What are your initial thoughts on so many openings, especially in the SEC East? You're losing some iconic coaches this year in the league. And then what are some of the challenges that this league will face with having a lot of newcomers and a lot of turnover?
Well, I think, Heather, I know Mark Ricks. I'm going to say, use a name, and no one wouldn't even use a name, but I worked with Mark for several years and have utmost respect for who he is as a person, and always admired Mark during those years and beyond at Georgia. But I don't ever speak to what another institution has done or a decision that they've made, because I'm not there, and that would be totally inappropriate to address another institution in any way, shape, or form. But this league is obviously the best league in college football, the most competitive league in college football. And that's hopefully never going to change because that's something everybody takes a lot of pride in. When you compete in the Southeastern Conference, you don't have many Saturdays off once conference play begins. And please don't misinterpret this comment, but that is not the case in many other conferences. There's usually, traditionally speaking, now everybody goes through that, everything's cyclical, but traditionally speaking, you know, if you don't play well, you don't play your best in the Southeastern Conference, you're probably going to lose that particular game.
I had a couple of questions in regard to the field. If you can't improve the conditions, would you consider field turf? Secondly, what have you been able to build up as far as your reserve fund?
Jimmy, we would not consider field turf. There's been no discussion of that nature. We want to continue to move forward with natural grass. We do have obviously an artificial surface in our indoor, which we utilize quite a bit, and that's been a godsend, the indoor facility, in the proximity of that indoor facility. What was your second question, Jimmy?
The reserve, how much have you been
Yeah,
able
we
to-
built the reserve up largely due to the first allocation from the SEC network revenues, Jimmy, to where we now have about $10 million. And, you know, we went 3 years with right under $2 million. And that was a very, very tenuous position to be in. We're still 14th out of 14 schools relative to that fund balance, but we have breathing room through the generosity of our donors, Jimmy, and through the hard work of people in our Tennessee Fund. We've not missed a beat relative to our facility needs because all of those are private dollars. So we've been able to address our facilities. So we've not been delayed in that process. I'm very, very excited about where we are in that process. But there have been decisions that had to be made based on a very meager reserve over the last 2 or 3 years.
Steve and Brett Bryce.
Just with all the coaching turnover y'all had recently with this program, I think Bush now the dean of the SEC East, what can that mean for y'all to kind of have stability at that spot now when the rest of the division's kind of going through some changes?
Well, it's so critical, Steve, for us to have stability because, as you all know even better than I, we went through a period of time with far too much transition. Whether it was 7 presidents since 2000, presidents and chancellors, or 4 football coaches in 6 years, 3 basketball coaches in 3 years. No program can get traction with that kind of transition taking place. I'm very pleased now, I'm very comfortable that we are in, for the first time in a long time, a stable environment, which is absolutely essential for progress to take place. And we live in a whitewater world. That's just a fact of the matter. We live in a very open environment relative to social media. That's another fact that we understand and deal with daily. But it doesn't change the basic fundamental principle that you have to have good leadership, you have to have stability. Our football program is healthy. And you heard me say for many, many weeks and months and years when I got here that was our #1 priority. Because of what Butch Jones has created through his leadership and his energy and his ability to recruit, our football program is healthy. There are very, very exciting and bright days ahead with our football program. And I'm blessed to see it every day. So I know you couldn't fully understand how strongly I feel about that because you don't get to walk into the building every day. You haven't witnessed the change of culture like I have. You haven't witnessed the work ethic that I see every day from our coaches, or the leadership that I see every day from Butch Jones and the way he represents the university, represents our program, the total transformation academically that we've undergone in the past 4 years. So many things that are not between the lines, but remain critically important. Because what you see mostly and what our fan base sees mostly is what happens between those lines, and that's important. That will always be important, but we can't get away from our fundamental responsibilities to our student athletes. They're here for an education. It's always been the case. It hasn't changed. We're not the NFL, we're not the NBA, and we're not Major League Baseball. And we have the most passionate fan base in the country. I say that constantly, without hesitation, and I believe it in my heart. And sometimes that passion, not only here but elsewhere, can manifest itself in moments of frustration. And it takes usually, hey, I'm guilty of that myself. I get in the fetal position on some Sundays this past season. So I understand. I understand. It's important and it hurts. And we've waited a long time, but our fan base it will continue to be rewarded with where this football program is headed.
Let's go Brett, John Bryce,